What if everything you were taught about success was never meant for you? The biggest reason people feel lost isn't failure, it's chasing someone else's dream. Today, let's uncover what success truly means for you, not for the world. Success is a word that we hear almost every single day. It's in every motivational quote, every classroom lecture, every family conversation. But have you ever stopped for a second and asked yourself, what does success really mean to me? Because the truth is, most people never do. They spend their whole lives chasing something they never defined in the first place. They wake up early, work hard, struggle through the noise, and still feel empty. Not because they failed, but because they were never chasing their own vision of success. They were living someone else's idea of what success should look like. From the time we are children, we are taught what making it looks like: a good degree, a stable job, a big house, a fancy car, respect from society, admiration from others. But no one teaches us to pause and ask, what if my version of success looks completely different? What if success to me means waking up with peace in my heart instead of pressure in my mind? What if it means having time with family, or being free to create, or helping people, or traveling the world, or simply living with purpose? Success is not a one-size-fits-all concept. It's personal, it's emotional, it's spiritual. It's yours to define. The biggest illusion people fall into is believing that success is a single image, a certain income, a title, a lifestyle. And because of this illusion, they spend their lives comparing themselves with others. They measure their worth by someone else's yardstick. The truth is, you can never feel successful if you're using another person's definition. You might achieve what others admire, yet inside, you'll feel a quiet emptiness that whispers, "This isn't me." Think about how many people you know who seem to have everything. Money, recognition, material comfort, yet you can see in their eyes that something's missing. They smile for the camera, but deep inside they feel disconnected. Why? Because they reached the top of a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall. They climbed high, but it wasn't their wall to climb. And this is where true awareness begins, realizing that success only matters when it reflects you. To define success for yourself, you must look inward instead of outward. Ask yourself, what really makes me feel alive? What moments in my life make me forget the time because I'm so deeply connected? What kind of life feels meaningful to me, not just impressive to others? These are the questions that shape your personal definition of success. It's not about what looks good on paper. It's about what feels right in your soul. You see, there's a dangerous trap that most people fall into, the trap of external validation. From childhood, we're programmed to seek approval from parents, teachers, friends, society. We start believing that being successful means being admired, being accepted, being seen. But that belief becomes a silent poison. It drives us to chase applause instead of authenticity. We start living a performance, not a purpose. When you depend on others' validation to feel successful, you lose control of your life. Your happiness becomes a puppet pulled by someone else's strings. Every compliment lifts you up. Every criticism breaks you down. You start measuring your worth by how many likes you get, how many people approve, how many nods of agreement you receive. But what happens when the applause stops? What happens when the people you wanted to impress don't care anymore? If your confidence dies with their attention, it was never real success to begin with. True success is quiet. It doesn't need to be broadcast. It doesn't scream for recognition. It just is. It's the calm satisfaction that comes from living in alignment with your purpose. It's the peace you feel when you know you're becoming who you were meant to be. When you define success for yourself, external noise fades away. The opinions of others lose power over you. You stop performing for approval, and you start living for meaning. Imagine a person who leaves a high-paying corporate job to start a small art studio, because that's where their heart truly lives. Society might call it foolish, irresponsible, or unrealistic, but that person goes to bed fulfilled. They wake up with joy, with energy, with a sense of purpose. Compare that to someone who stays in a job they hate just because it pays more or looks respectable. That person may have all the symbols of success, but none of the feeling. Who's really successful here? The one who lives authentically, or the one who performs to impress? The truth is, success is not about the image you project. It's about the emotion you feel when you look in the mirror. It's about knowing that you're walking your own path, even if no one else understands it. When you stop chasing validation and start following your inner truth, your definition of success begins to transform. You begin to see that success can be quiet mornings with coffee and gratitude. It can be raising children with love. It can be writing, painting, teaching, building, healing, creating. It can be working in silence for years on something no one claps for, but you know it matters, because success isn't about applause. It's about alignment. Alignment between who you are, what you value, and what you do every day. External validation is addictive because it gives temporary pleasure. Every compliment, every nod feels like fuel. But like any addiction, it fades. You'll need more and more to feel the same satisfaction, and that cycle never ends. But internal validation, the kind that comes from living authentically, is permanent. It doesn't depend on who's watching. It doesn't disappear when people stop noticing. It's self-generated, and that's what makes it powerful. Ask yourself, why do so many people reach their dreams and still feel empty? Because they were chasing a version of success that never belonged to them. They spent years building a life that looked good from the outside but didn't feel good on the inside. Real success starts when you stop asking, what will people think? And start asking, what will make me proud of myself? Defining success for yourself means taking full ownership of your journey. It means being honest about what truly fulfills you, even if it doesn't match the world's expectations. It means having the courage to say, this is my path, even when others don't understand. You don't need to prove your success to anyone. You only need to feel it within. People often say, follow your dreams, but the deeper truth is, follow your definition of success, because dreams can be influenced by others, but your definition is born from your essence. Some people dream of wealth, some of impact, some of peace. None are wrong. What matters is that it's your dream, your version, your truth. And once you understand that, you stop judging others too. You realize that everyone is walking their own road, facing their own battles, defining success in their own way. The person who chooses a simple life isn't less ambitious. The one who builds an empire isn't more important. They're just different, and both can be successful in their own terms. When you define success for yourself, your focus shifts from comparison to creation. You stop wasting energy envying others and start investing it in building your own path. You understand that your journey doesn't have to look like anyone else's. You're not behind, you're not ahead. You're exactly where you need to be. Success defined by others is a prison. Success defined by you is freedom, and freedom is the ultimate form of success. But remember, this freedom comes with responsibility. When you stop blaming society for your choices and take full ownership of your path, you also accept the responsibility to build your definition of success consciously. You can no longer say, they made me do it. You choose, you act, and you live the results. That's true empowerment. It takes courage to walk this road. The world celebrates conformity, not authenticity. It applauds those who fit the mold, not those who break it. But every great success story begins with someone who dared to define life on their own terms. From artists to entrepreneurs to spiritual leaders, they all had one thing in common. They stopped chasing validation and started following truth. So, when you think about your own life, ask yourself, whose dream are you chasing? Are you living to be admired? Or are you living to be fulfilled? Are you collecting trophies? Or are you collecting moments of peace, passion, and purpose? Because in the end, success is not about how much you have, it's about how much of you remains when everything else is stripped away. When the noise of the world fades, when the spotlight turns off, when there's no one left to impress, will you still feel successful? If the answer is yes, then you've truly defined success for yourself. If the answer is no, it's never too late to redefine it. Your journey towards success begins the moment you decide to stop chasing the illusion of enough and start embracing the truth of what matters. Success is not something you find out there, it's something you create within. And once you own your definition, the world will adjust to it. You won't need to compete, you won't need to prove. You'll simply live in alignment. That's the beauty of defining success for yourself. It frees you from comparison, it silences the pressure, and it brings you back home to yourself. There's a moment in every person's journey when they realize that working harder isn't enough. You can grind day and night, set goals, chase numbers, and still feel like something's off. You're doing everything right, but deep down you feel disconnected, like your soul and your schedule are living two different lives. That's because true success doesn't come from how much you do. It comes from what you align with. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if your heart isn't in harmony with your actions, it will never feel like success. Alignment means your thoughts, your actions, and your purpose are moving in the same direction. It's when what you do matches what you believe. Most people live out of alignment. Their values point one way, but their choices point another. They say they want peace, but they fill their days with stress. They say they want health, but they feed themselves poison. They say they want love, but they chase validation. They say they want freedom, but they build walls of fear around themselves. You can't find fulfillment like that because misalignment creates resistance, and resistance drains your power. Think about it like this. When a car's tires are out of alignment, it still moves, but it struggles. It shakes, it wobbles, it wastes fuel, and eventually it breaks down. That's how many people live their lives. They move, but not smoothly. They succeed, but not peacefully. Every step feels heavy because they're fighting against their own inner truth. Alignment is the difference between force and flow. When you're in alignment, you don't need to push life. Life moves with you. But alignment doesn't happen by accident. It begins with awareness. Asking yourself, are my actions in harmony with the person I want to become? Do my daily habits reflect my highest values? Am I pursuing goals that come from my soul or from society? Most people don't pause to ask these questions. They just keep running, chasing success defined by others, climbing ladders built by others, and living stories written by others. And then they wonder why they feel unfulfilled even after achieving so much. You can't be in alignment with yourself if you're living someone else's script. Alignment starts when you stop performing and start listening to your intuition, your inner guidance, your quiet truth that always knows what's right for you. The world might tell you to go faster, but your heart might whisper, slow down. The world might say, take the safe route, but your gut might scream, take the leap. Alignment is about trusting that voice because it never lies. When you align your values, your thoughts, and your actions, you enter a state of flow. Things that used to feel difficult begin to feel natural. You stop forcing outcomes and start attracting them. You no longer work for success. You work with success. It's as if the universe itself begins to cooperate with you because you're finally operating in harmony with your truth. That's why some people seem to create miracles. They're not luckier than others. They're just aligned. Now, alignment doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means your challenges make sense. You still struggle, but the struggle has purpose. You still work hard, but the work feels meaningful. You're no longer fighting against yourself. That's the power of alignment. It doesn't remove pain. It transforms it into purpose. It doesn't eliminate failure. It gives it meaning. And that's where the next truth unfolds, redefining failure as feedback. Most people see failure as an end, a signal to stop, a mark of shame. But failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of success. Every failure is feedback, a message from life that says, you're learning, you're growing. Adjust and move forward. The problem isn't failure. It's how we interpret it. We were taught that failure means we're not good enough. But in reality, failure simply means you're trying something new. The only people who never fail are the ones who never dare. When you redefine failure as feedback, you take away its power to hurt you. Instead of saying, I failed, you start saying, I learned. Instead of, I'm not good enough, you say, I'm getting better. Every mistake becomes a map showing you where to go next. That shift in perspective turns setbacks into stepping stones. You begin to see that every so-called failure was never meant to break you. It was meant to shape you. Think about every great innovator, every successful creator, every leader. They've all failed more times than they've succeeded. The difference is they never treated failure as the end of their story. They saw it as part of their evolution. They understood that failure is not a verdict, it's information. It tells you what doesn't work so you can find what does. But here's the hidden truth. Most people don't fail because they tried and fell short. They fail because they never try again. The pain of failure doesn't come from the fall. It comes from the refusal to rise. Failure doesn't define you, quitting does. Every person who's ever achieved something meaningful had moments when they felt lost, broken, or hopeless. The only difference is they kept going. They turned pain into power, doubt into direction, and failure into fuel. Failure as feedback also means accepting that not every door is meant to open, and that's okay. Sometimes rejection is redirection. Sometimes losing something you wanted is life guiding you towards something better. When you fail, you're not being punished, you're being guided. You're being invited to grow. The lesson might hurt, but it's never empty. It's easy to believe in yourself when everything's working out, when life rewards your efforts. But real growth happens when things fall apart. When you face failure, you discover what's real, your strength, your resilience, your character. That's why failure is sacred. It strips away illusion and leaves behind truth. You learn who you are when the world says no. And this connects deeply with alignment, because if you're not aligned with your true self, failure will feel like the end. You'll interpret it as proof that you're not enough. But when you're in alignment, you see failure differently. You understand that it's part of the process, not the definition of your worth. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? That one question transforms everything. Imagine a musician who plays to please others. Every mistake feels like humiliation. But a musician who plays from the heart, every mistake is part of the song. Life works the same way. When you live for approval, failure destroys you. When you live for growth, failure transforms you. So how do you practice this mindset? By changing the story you tell yourself after a setback. Instead of saying, I can't do this, say, I can't do this yet. That small word, yet, turns a wall into a door. It opens up possibility. It gives your mind permission to learn instead of quit. Every time you fall, say to yourself, I'm collecting data. I'm learning how to win. That mindset keeps you moving forward even when nothing goes right. The truth is, failure doesn't stop you. Fear does. Fear of judgment, fear of embarrassment, fear of being seen trying and not succeeding. But every time you choose courage over fear, you gain freedom. You become untouchable because you stop letting failure define your value. You start seeing that failure as simply feedback, neutral, informative, necessary. Even nature operates on this principle. A baby learns to walk by falling 100 times. A bird learns to fly by flapping and failing repeatedly. Every living thing learns through failure. It's how growth is wired into life itself. So why do we treat it as something to avoid? Because society only celebrates the result, not the process. But you can't have results without the process, and the process includes failure. Once you embrace failure as feedback, you also become more compassionate towards yourself. You stop criticizing your past and start appreciating it. You see that every wrong turn, every heartbreak, every loss, it all contributed to your growth. You wouldn't be who you are today without the lessons your failures taught you. That realization gives you peace. You no longer carry shame about your past, you carry wisdom. Failure is the universe's way of saying, you're ready for a higher level. It's like a teacher giving you a tougher lesson because you've outgrown the last one. And the faster you learn to decode that feedback, the faster you grow. Some lessons will repeat until you finally understand them, not as punishment, but as preparation. When alignment and failure meet, something powerful happens. You stop fighting life and start flowing with it. You understand that when things don't go your way, it's not because life is against you. It's because life is guiding you towards something better suited to who you truly are. Alignment gives you clarity. Failure gives you strength. Together, they build unshakable success. The most fulfilled people aren't the ones who never failed. They're the ones who turned failure into foundation. They built wisdom from pain. They built clarity from confusion. They built confidence from falling and getting back up again. Every scar became a story. Every mistake became a message. And when you live like that, nothing can stop you. So the next time you fall short, don't hide, don't run, don't label yourself a failure. Pause and ask, what is this teaching me about myself, about my path, about what truly matters? That's how you grow. That's how you align. That's how you transform pain into progress. Remember, alignment gives direction and failure gives depth. One helps you walk the right path. The other helps you walk it with strength. Success built without alignment will always feel shallow. Success built without failure will always be fragile. But success built through both, that's the kind that lasts. So keep walking even when it's hard. Keep adjusting your path until it feels true. Keep failing forward because every step, every mistake, every realignment, it's all leading you closer to your most authentic, unstoppable self. We live in a world that runs on comparison. From the moment we open our eyes in the morning, we're surrounded by other people's lives, their achievements, their beauty, their possessions, their moments of joy. Scroll through your feed and it's right there. Someone's traveling the world. Someone's buying a car. Someone's getting married. Someone's achieving their dream job. And without even realizing it, we begin to measure our worth against them. We start to feel behind. We start to feel small. That's the silent poison of comparison. It steals your gratitude, your peace, and your ability to feel successful where you already stand. Comparison is the thief of fulfillment. It makes you forget that you're living your own story, not someone else's. You start racing in lanes that were never meant for you, chasing goals that don't belong to you. And no matter how much you achieve, it never feels enough because someone out there will always appear to be doing better. But here's the truth. The moment you compare, you lose connection with yourself. You stop listening to your own inner compass and start following noise. You stop growing at your own pace and start forcing yourself to match others. The danger of comparison is that it creates invisible timelines. We start saying, I should have achieved this by now. I should be richer. I should be happier. But life isn't a race. It's a rhythm. Everyone blooms in their own season. Some flowers bloom in spring, others in autumn, but every single one still blooms. Just because your journey looks different doesn't mean you're lost. It means your growth is happening in its own divine timing. You can't find fulfillment by copying someone else's life because fulfillment doesn't come from success that's visible. It comes from success that's felt. It's the quiet satisfaction of knowing that you're living true to yourself even if no one's watching. It's the joy that doesn't need an audience. You could have the smallest house and the biggest piece, and that's still success. You could live far from the spotlight and still shine brighter inside than most people ever will. When you start designing life around fulfillment, everything changes. You begin to ask different questions, not how can I impress others, but how can I feel alive? Not what should I have achieved by now, but what makes me proud of the person I'm becoming? Not am I ahead of them, but am I aligned with me? Fulfillment begins when you stop asking the world for permission to feel enough. You have to understand success built on comparison is fragile. The moment someone surpasses you, your confidence collapses. But success built on fulfillment is unshakable because it's not built on others. It's built on truth. Fulfillment doesn't need to be measured. It doesn't need validation. It just exists in the quiet knowing that you are living your own definition of a meaningful life. Look around, you'll notice something powerful. The happiest people aren't always the richest. the most famous, or the most admired. The happiest people are the most fulfilled. They live with intention. They know what matters to them, and they protect it fiercely. They don't waste energy comparing. They invest energy creating. They're not chasing trends. They're building truth. When you design your life around fulfillment, you give yourself the freedom to slow down. You stop needing to prove anything. You start appreciating simple things. A good morning, a calm heart, a moment of laughter. Fulfillment lives in the ordinary moments that comparison blinds you from seeing. When you stop comparing, gratitude returns, and gratitude turns ordinary into extraordinary. But there's one more truth about fulfillment. It always leads to contribution. Because once you feel full inside, you naturally want to pour that fullness into others. Fulfillment without contribution eventually turns into stagnation. You were never meant to just take from life. You were meant to give back. And that's where the final stage of defining success begins, contribution. There comes a time when achieving for yourself is no longer enough. You reach your goals, you collect rewards, you get the recognition, but something inside still whispers, there must be more. That whisper isn't emptiness, it's evolution. It's your soul reminding you that the highest purpose of success is to serve. Real success is not measured by what you get, it's measured by what you give. The world often teaches us to chase success to fill a void, but when you reach the top, you realize the only thing that truly fills the void is contribution. You can earn all the money, fame, and recognition you desire, but if you're not using it to create impact, something inside will always feel incomplete. We are wired to contribute. It's in our DNA to make a difference, to help, to share, to uplift. The most powerful form of success is when your personal growth becomes someone else's hope. Think about it. The people we remember most in history aren't the ones who had the most, but the ones who gave the most. Those who used their success to inspire, heal, and empower others. Contribution is the stage where success turns into significance. It's where it's where fulfillment expands beyond yourself. Contribution doesn't always mean donating millions or starting foundations. Sometimes it's as simple as sharing your story, offering kindness, mentoring someone, being present for a friend, or inspiring one person who needed to hear your voice. Every act of giving creates ripples far beyond what you can see. The smallest gesture can shift someone's entire day or even their entire life. When you start giving, something magical happens. You begin to receive in ways you never expected. Joy multiplies, gratitude deepens, your energy expands. You start to understand that success and contribution are two sides of the same coin. One fuels the other. The more you give, the more meaningful your success becomes. And the more meaning you create, the more fulfilled you feel. The truth is, no matter how much you achieve, the journey will feel empty if it's only about you. But when your life starts touching others, when your story becomes a light for someone lost in the dark, that's when you truly succeed. Contribution turns success into legacy. It transforms achievement into purpose. Imagine this. You wake up one day knowing that something you created, your words, your work, your kindness, has changed someone's life. You didn't just exist, you mattered. That's the kind of success that no amount of money can buy. That's the kind of success that outlives you. Because when you contribute, your energy continues even when you're gone. Many people fear that giving will take away from their success, but the opposite is true. The more you give, the more abundant you feel. Contribution shifts your mindset from scarcity to sufficiency. You realize there's always enough to share, enough time, love, energy, and opportunity. Success multiplies when it's shared. When you live a life of contribution, you also stop needing external rewards. You give because it's who you are, not because it makes you look good. You don't need applause. You don't need credit. You find joy in the act itself. That's when contribution becomes effortless. It's no longer something you do, it's something you are. So ask yourself, what can I give today? It doesn't have to be grand. Maybe it's listening without judgment, sharing your experience, or helping someone believe in themselves again. Maybe it's simply showing up with kindness in a world that's forgotten how to care. Every act of contribution, no matter how small, carries infinite value when done with love. Fulfillment and contribution complete the circle of true success. First, you learn who you are. Then, you grow into that truth. Finally, you use that truth to lift others. That's the real journey, from identity to impact. And when you live that way, you no longer chase success, you become success. Remember this, fulfillment is not a destination and contribution is not an obligation. They are a state of being, a way of living, a way of showing up every day with purpose. When your heart is full, it naturally overflows. You can't stop it. It becomes who you are. The world doesn't need more successful people. It needs more fulfilled, compassionate, and giving people. Because when you're fulfilled, you create peace. When you contribute, you create change. Together, they create a world worth living in. At the end of your life, you won't remember the awards, the followers, or the possessions. You'll remember the faces you touched, the moments you shared, and the lives you changed. You'll remember how it felt to be alive, truly alive, in service of something bigger than yourself. That's success. That's fulfillment. That's the legacy of contribution. So don't measure your life by how much you have. Measure it by how deeply you live and how widely you give. Every day is a chance to design a life around fulfillment instead of comparison, to choose meaning over mimicry, and to give in ways that make the world a little brighter. In the end, success defined by others fades, but success defined by fulfillment and contribution lasts forever. Because fulfillment gives you peace and contribution gives you purpose, and together they create a life that's not successful, but significant. That's the real truth no one tells you. The purpose of life isn't just to achieve, it's to become. Become fulfilled, become generous, become the kind of person whose success inspires others to believe that they can create their own. Because the world doesn't need another copy of success. It needs your version, your definition, your light. And once you find that, once you live from fulfillment and give from the heart, you'll never need to search for success again. It will live within you, breathe through you, and shine around you. That's where your power begins. That's where your legacy begins. That's where you begin. Thank you, yes you, for giving your time, your energy, and your attention to this message today. In a world full of distractions, it takes real awareness to stop and reflect on what truly matters. If you've stayed till this moment, it means you're not just watching, you're growing. You're not just consuming content, you're building your future. Remember, success is not found in shortcuts or formulas. It's found in moments like this. When you pause, listen, and choose to redefine your path from the inside out, every minute you invest in yourself changes something deep within you. And those small changes day by day will shape the reality you live tomorrow. So thank you for being part of this journey, for believing in your growth, and for daring to question the definition of success that the world handed you. You are the architect of your destiny, and today, you've taken one more step toward the version of yourself you were always meant to become. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, not just for me, but for yourself. Because the next time you open this channel, it won't just be another video. It'll be another reminder of who you truly are and what you're capable of. At the end of the day, defining success for yourself is not about rejecting the world's standards. It's about reclaiming your voice within them. You are not behind in life. You are not late. You are right where you're meant to be. Each experience, good or bad, is teaching you something vital about your path, your purpose, and your potential. The truth is, success is not a destination. It's a direction. It's a journey that unfolds every time you make choices aligned with your truth. When you stop living for applause and start living for alignment, peace finds you. When you stop measuring your worth by results and start focusing on growth, life opens new doors. And when you stop chasing someone else's dream and start designing your own, you finally meet the version of yourself that's been waiting to lead you forward. So define success in a way that honors your soul. Maybe it's peace. Maybe it's freedom. Maybe it's impact. Whatever it is, make it yours. Because once you own your definition of success, the world will no longer have the power to define your worth. You are already enough. You are already on your way. Keep growing, keep believing, keep defining success your way.